Thank you for joining Bowtech Live and the Nate Zielinski Podcast. This is all about education, scouting, building patterns, and being successful on public land in a do-it-yourself style hunt. A huge thanks to all of our partners, including Bowtech Archery, Diamond Archery, Excalibur Crossbows, Vortex Optics, Ford Trucks, Slumberjack, Bass Pro Shops of Denver, Mr. Heater, Turkey Creek Studios, Ripcord Rest, Tight Spot Quivers, and Black Gold Sights. Join us every Monday night live at 7 p.m. Pacific on the Bowtech Archery or Nate Zielinski Facebook pages, bowtecharchery.com, and or the Nate Zielinski YouTube channel. And remember, tag and share this live feed with your friends and bring your big game questions. And here's your host, Nate Zielinski. So apologize about that. Again, if you're just joining us, I am Nate Zielinski, and welcome, guys, to this whole segment, chasing big game, scouting, preparation. It's all about public land. It's all about doing yourself and being successful through hard work and being successful as a big game hunter. Again, whether you're whitetails, mule deer, elk. Tonight we're going to talk a lot about elk and other big game. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Again, you could be watching this on a multitude of outlets, but huge thanks to Bowtech Archery for letting us use their live stream platform to go live. So again, everything's brought to you by Bowtech Archery. And a huge thanks to them again for this platform, letting us talk and bringing you all this education. You might also be watching on the Diamond Archery page. Huge thanks to them. Black Gold Sights, Ripcord, Tight Spot Quivers, Bass Pro Shops of Denver, Excalibur, Tightline Outdoors, and my personal page, Nate Zielinski. Again, I encourage everybody to go there and give that page a like. But again, you can be watching this on a multitude of outlets. And if you're not into the social thing, you can also watch it on the Bowtech webpage. So again, you can always go to bowtech.com and watch it there. So if you have some friends that aren't into the social thing, send them over to the Bowtech website. You can watch it there and get all the information, all the same feed there. So again, thank you so much for all those outlets for letting us go live. We're very excited about tonight. Obviously, last week we talked about some animals. I've been in the woods every day this week chasing big game. So we have a lot of updates for you. We're going to talk about all those personal hunts and everything else that we've been doing in the woods. So we'll bring you in that. Also, guys, as far as a huge thanks to Randy Newberg, guys, a fellow elk enthusiast and really a Western big game guy. Guys, this guy is the real deal, and a huge thanks. Randy shared this to all his viewers. I encourage them to come over here and give us a feed. So again, thank you so much, Randy, for sharing that and texting that out. And again, everybody that got the text alert, just again, huge thanks for signing up for that. Guys, we're trying to bring you the most real content, the most educational content out there, the media source. So again, make sure you always sign up for all the text alerts. We would love to text you when we're going live, text you when we have cool stuff going on to make sure you don't miss out. Build that education and be more successful. So again, huge thanks for all those text alerts and huge thanks to Randy Newberg. Make sure you check out Randy's show on Wednesday nights, same time, 7 p.m. Pacific. So again, Randy Newberg, Wednesday nights, same time as it is on this show. Make sure you like that. I promise you, you will learn a lot. Great footage there, great knowledge. It'll make you a better hunter. So like we do all week, again, I'm Nate Zielinski. We're going to talk you through our personal hunts of what we've been doing this week. Last week on Monday's show, we talked to you about a couple different elk that we were chasing. Again, I'm hunting with a good friend of mine, the media content guy at Bowtech, Tim Glom, after his first bull kill. So literally the first time he's chasing a big bull, trying to put a bull on the ground. We've been spending a lot of time with him. He is itching at the trigger. I'll tell you, we've seen a lot of satellite bulls, a lot of younger bulls, and I'm literally having to tackle him out in the woods to keep him from shooting one of these smaller bulls, but we're chasing some big bulls. Last week we were talking about chasing a big bull named Larry and a big bull named Ricky. And we're going to talk about that here in just a couple minutes. But I tell you, I'm really excited. It's Monday night. Tomorrow is the opener of one of the rifle sheep hunts. Again, Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep here in Colorado. And I have a good friend of mine that's got a tag for that. Now, with that being said, I can say he's probably got one of the tougher units in the state of Colorado. There are 2 tags. They give you over a month to fill those tags, and I can't remember the last time in history that both of those tags have been filled, even with a rifle tag. So it's a rough unit. It doesn't have a ton of high country, so it's a unit that's got a lot lower elevation, so a lot of these rams live in the trees. And with that said, there's not a lot of rams in the area. There's some good rams, but again, they're kind of few and far in between. So we definitely have our work cut out for us, but I'm going to be in the woods with him the next 2 days, hoping to fill that ram tag. So make sure you go to that Nate Zielinski Facebook page. We'll be doing live updates from that page, and we'll have, all that content as well throughout the course of the week on a lot of different of these outlets. But again, beyond excited. Right now, we have a band of rams that have been going in and out of the trees. We've been catching them down in some lower country early in the morning and late in the evening feeding near a river. Now, the one big thing we have going with us this week is we have a full moon. It's going to allow these animals to do more feeding, utilize that water source more at night, making the daytime opportunity just a little bit shorter. Now, it's not going to affect the sheep near as much as it would affect like a rutting elk, but we're definitely still going to have more nighttime activity, which is obviously going to decrease daytime activity. So we're definitely keeping an eye on these rams. We got 6 rams ranging from a half curl to a full curl drinking during the day. So we're really excited about those rams. And then we've got a couple independent rams. Then we've got some younger rams, more of that half curl 5/8 hanging out in some different countries. So of all the sheep in the unit, we have a very good pattern, but I wouldn't say it's a great pattern. We're not down to specific timing. They're kind of floating around, and they're spending a ton of time in the timber. And anytime you deal with sheep in the timber, it's really hard. Most guys are used to hunting sheep well above tree line, cliffs, rocks, fairly rough terrain, making it somewhat easy to find them and make an approach. When they go into the timber, it makes it harder. So we're hoping to catch them on little rock edges near the timber, hopefully catch them moving in and out of the timber at key periods of the day. But again, I will be out first thing tomorrow morning on that sheep hunt, hunt with that buddy. And again, hopefully we bring you some unbelievable footage from that. But it'll be spending a lot of time behind optics. I mean, the name of the game with sheep is 100% optics. I mean, we're using Vortex stuff, just super clear glass and long range looking. I mean, we'll be looking at everything from a couple hundred yards to several miles away trying to locate those rams. So again, make sure you stay tuned for that. As far as the bear hunt, we talked about bear last week. Bear season is open for me. I have a tag. We've been talking about that. We have 2 things going on with the bear. I have got some great patterns on some big boars right now. These animals are utilizing the raspberry patches. They're getting ready to start using acorns soon. Not quite on the acorns yet, but they're hitting raspberries really good. They're starting to drink quite a bit. Again, we have kind of a warm spell. We got some extreme heat in a lot of these western states. Obviously, there's some fires going on. Again, hopefully everybody's safe with those fires. But with those extreme temperatures, it's really causing these animals to drink more. So I have good patterns on bears drinking and hitting those raspberry patches. And luckily for me, my raspberries and my water are very, very close to each other. So I can sit in one spot and cover both of those. And this big boar is actually hitting both of these fairly well. My issue that I've had so far is, one, most times when I've been wanting to hunt, again, first 20, 30 minutes of light and the last 20, 30 minutes of light, I've had really kind of situational wind. Again, with warm temps like we're talking about, warm temps bring a lot of times different thermals and different winds. And I've had really unpredictable winds where I don't want to drop into this area if my wind's not right. Obviously, of every animal you'll ever hunt, bears have the most sensitive nose of every animal out there. So with that extreme sensitive nose, you definitely have to play your cards right. Don't booger it up. I know I don't want to go in there, blow him out, and have the fact that he may never return. So we're really kind of watching that wind. And to be totally honest, the 2 hunts that I had great wind, I was caught up watching some elk, and the elk we're going to show you here in just a second. So I got sidetracked by elk on a couple of perfect days, and the days I was planning on going in there, I had bad thermals. So the bear hunt lasts a long time. I have till the end of September, so I still have quite a bit of time. So I'm not, overly excited about ruining some other hunts to do that. So I'm really kind of paying my dues, watching my time. When the timing's right and the thermals are right, hopefully I'll slip in there and have a good opportunity at that bear. As far as the deer hunt goes, now a couple weeks ago we showed you a picture of a big giant mule deer, 2, 3 stickers on each side. A good friend of ours, I actually didn't even know he knew about the deer, went in there and actually made the harvest on that buck. So if you're watching now, Justin, congratulations, man. It's a heck of a deer. You did a great stock on that animal. So again, we've been watching that deer. Didn't have a chance to hunt that deer ourselves, but a good friend of ours actually harvested that. But the mainstay, especially mule deer, western mule deer, but we're also talking a little bit of whitetails. This is the week for at least most of the western states when these bucks are losing velvet. That is really also kind of a kickoff of when some patterns change. So again, if you always had that dream of that velvet buck, you got to get it done soon. And now at this point, you have to be extremely cautious when handling that velvet. But now the fact that they're going hard horn, again, it's this week. I've seen a lot of hard horn bucks already, and over the next 5 to 8 days, you're really going to see those bucks turning hard horn. It's really a defining point of their daily patterns. And for me personally, and my thoughts on how these bucks work, generally I see a good portion of these bucks that are going to go 100% independent as they start losing velvet, so they're going to get out of those bachelor groups. And I also see a pretty good group of these animals to where a lot of my really severely high country bucks will actually start dropping into timber, and they'll actually start losing elevation, anticipating in a month, or later, that 2 months later, that these bucks are going to go into rut. But they start moving lower in elevation to gain does. Very rarely do you see a lot of does above tree line. It's mainly just those big bucks. So you're seeing the big bucks losing elevation. So far, we haven't had a lot of bigger bucks in that low country, but now over the next week or so, we're really going to see that lower country get infested with these bigger bucks. So for me, it's not a game changer of my hunt, but I do oftentimes change the terrain at which I'm hunting. So I spend that velvet time as high as I can possibly go in the area I'm hunting. Once they lose that velvet, I start going lower in that elevation. So again, keep that in mind. If you're a deer hunter and you don't really follow those patterns, you haven't scouted in years past, generally speaking, once they lose that velvet, you're going to see them lose a little bit of elevation, and hopefully you'll find those bucks there. So again, I just changed my patterns, but I'm on, generally speaking, a lot of the same animals. And if not anything else, your low country that already had deer will now bulk up in a pattern, so you're going to have a lot more deer in a concentrated area. So even though you don't have that opportunity at chasing a velvet buck, it's a great opportunity to have a lot of deer in the same area. So we're really excited about losing that velvet and gaining some more deer. Next thing we're talking about, guys, is elk. This is one of the biggest things we get a lot of people watching this feed for, a lot of education. Obviously, it's the animal that everybody loves. If you're just joining us, again, I'm Nate Zielinski, and thank you for coming in. Last week, if you didn't watch this last week, again, I'm hunting with a good buddy, Tim Glom. We're looking for big bulls. And as of last Monday at this live feed, we were watching two bulls. We were watching a big bull named Larry, which is a 7x2, kind of a freak of nature monster bull, though, but his 7 side is massive. 60-inch beam, just a tank of a big giant bull. But on the other side, we had Ricky, who is just a massive typical bull. This big Ricky is actually a 6x7. And at the end of last week's feed, we actually went into the next day on Tuesday and decided, hey, you know what? Larry is awesome, but we're going to hunt Ricky. So Tim and I went into this next hunt on Tuesday, a week ago, for tomorrow, and we were all excited about chasing Ricky. Now, if you're just joining us, I'm going to show you a clip of Ricky here real quick, and then we're going to tell you what happened with that. And again, before we show that clip, guys, again, thank you so much for being with us. Huge thanks for everybody that texted in, and we're sorry about that little audio glitch in the beginning. Lost our audio there for a second, but everything is good. So if you jumped off there, make sure you come back, and we appreciate it. Obviously, we're going to have some glitches as we go forth. Nothing like live television there. So again, huge thanks. But right now, I'm going to show you a clip of Ricky from last week. So again, a lot of you have seen this, but everybody new joining us, I'm Nate Zielinski. This is the bull we were watching last week. So if you look at your screen right now, you're going to see a big bull Ricky. Now, if you're on Instagram, jump over to the Bowtech Facebook page so you can see that big picture of Ricky. So guys, this picture of Ricky right now is actually early on. This is late June, early July. It's the best clips we have of Ricky. Ricky got the name Ricky because we call him Ricky Bob because he's so fast. I've seen him about 60 times from these photos. Unfortunately, he is so fast, we don't have a lot of great video of him. A lot of great still shots, but not a lot of great video. But you can see right there, Ricky has got unbelievable fronts, great thirds, heavy on top, just an absolutely massive bull. He is old and he is a flat out stallion. Again, sorry if you're Instagram, if you can't see it, jump over to the Bowtech Facebook page and you can see all these clips there. So guys, again, you're seeing that is Ricky. And come back to me here real quick, Devin. So watching that bull, that's Ricky. That's the bull as of last week we said, he's the bull we're chasing. So Tim and I went out Tuesday morning, again, less than a week ago, or a week ago from tomorrow, and are after Ricky. So we go in the woods, and Ricky's been living in kind of a valley. So he comes through this big, long draw and heads into timber and beds. He's been doing it for 90 days. So where he's been bedding is maybe 3 miles off of like where we can get to off of our vehicle. So he's not that far in. I mean, relatively speaking, 3 miles isn't terrible. So unfortunately, with the way the wind's been going, we had to do like a 6-mile trek around to get to where Ricky was at. So we basically do this giant loop to get ourselves in situation. Now we're sitting up high, we're getting there ready to watch him, and about maybe 10 minutes before legal shooting light, we literally see like headlamps coming. And there was a gentleman camped kind of up the valley, another hunter with kind of some bad wind. I don't think he did anything intentional. A person that doesn't maybe scout a lot, obviously you get in the woods, you start hiking, you're looking for bulls, you're looking for a vantage point. But just so happens that this guy's camp and the way he was walking got right into where Ricky was walking, got winded, and Ricky actually boogied into some dark timber. Totally broke his pattern that he's had for about the last 90 days. So Ricky broke off that pattern. Obviously that morning hunt was done. Went back out that afternoon and hadn't seen him. So we kind of lost Ricky for about 2 days. And he's just in the timber. He's not far. I'm sure he didn't blow out to the next county. I'm sure he's just in that like zone B that we always talk about, having a zone 1, 2, and 3, or zone A, B, C. He's just in a little secondary canyon. But unfortunately, he's in a very thick canyon, not a place where you you can glass to a lot. So we lost him for a couple days. We're glassing and glassing looking for Ricky. This is the situation. And now all of a sudden, the other day, we're still looking for Ricky. We're dedicated to one bull. We're seeing bulls everywhere. Lots of good bulls, but we want Ricky. And all of a sudden, while glassing for Ricky, we ran into another interesting bull. Now, to be totally honest with you, I feel like I do a very good job of scouting. We spend a lot of time in the woods watching all the bulls. This bull I'm about to show you, I had never seen before. I had no idea where he came from. I have no idea where he lived. The interesting thing is this is the same genetics as Ricky. To be totally honest with you, I think this is 2 years shy of Ricky. So I think Ricky's right around that 7.5-year-old bull. I think this bull here is 5.5 to maybe 6.5. I think he's really a 5.5-year-old bull with amazing genetics. So he's following right along Ricky's footsteps. Not quite as heavy, but this bull caught our attention. I'm going to play these clips so you can see this bull. So now we have that decision making again. Ricky or the bull that we're calling Junior because he's basically Ricky's grandson. So guys, take a clip of this bull and watch it here and see what you think of him. Again, if you're on Instagram, flip over. Make sure you jump over. Go to the Bowtech page, Bowtech website or Bowtech Facebook page and check out this bull. But you can see Ricky right there, excuse me, Junior, walking out. Junior is running hard. He's with the cows, but you can see him walking right there. He is a great bull. I mean, absolutely a great mature bull. We love the fact that he's rutting up so hard. He's bugling, he's screaming, he's talking. So you saw that little clip right there. Now, I'm going to show you one other clip, and I want to talk to you about this. To be totally honest with you, I stare at a lot of bulls, I look at a lot of bulls, but if you watch this bull right here, he's deceiving because he's not overly heavy. He's not thin, but he's not as heavy as, again, you know, great-granddad Ricky. But this bull right here has got unbelievable thirds. If you look at his thirds when he's turning up here in the sun, his thirds are tremendous. His fourths are tremendous, and he has got stickers, roughly 4-inch stickers coming off of his fourths on both sides. So this bull Junior is a true legit 7x7. Great beam length, but again, the overall thirds and fourths absolutely make this bull. To be totally honest with you, I have a hard time judging this bull. I don't know what this bull scores. I've stared at him now. You know, I had one great day of looking at him. You can see him there kind of turning the sun. You can see those swords practically sticking up to the moon. You can see those thirds that are just huge. You know, his thirds are 25 to 27 inches. His swords are absolutely great. His beams aren't overly long, but by no means are they short. But again, I have a hard time judging this bull. I don't know exactly what this bull scores. For everybody out there, if you know elk, if you stare at elk, comment on here. Send me some questions. I would love to know what you think this bull scores. How big is this bull? Again, we know that he is not the same magnitude as Ricky. This bull is not quite what the Ricky bull is. But to be honest with you, he's got longer force. He's got longer thirds. He's got longer tine length. He doesn't have near the mass. He doesn't have near the width. But again, there's no doubt there's some great bulls there. But this bull caught our attention. This bull is one of those ones that you know, he's bugling hard, he's running hard, and he's a bull that's very active with his herd, and that's probably the biggest thing that turned us on to this bull. Obviously, we just want to chase big, mature bulls, but this bull right here, again, we're flipping back to the pictures. There's some still shots of him. So, again, the first picture there, you can see the accentuation of those third points, see the giant force. So you can see the second picture where you can start to see the kicker coming off of those swords. And again, look at that, that left antler. You can see the overall length of those thirds, and then obviously the last picture, same thing. His fronts, they go out, but they don't turn, so he's got kind of somewhat short first and seconds. Thirds are tremendous. Fourths are tremendous. Fifths are great, and his little stickers coming off of his swords don't hurt by any means. So again, take a good look at that bull. Everybody out there, what's that bull score? You like him? Should we shoot him? The reason why we really like this bull, guys, is he ruts hard. So he bugles hard, so he's easy to locate. But the biggest thing is he really works his cows in a large group. So he keeps his cows tight. And you always have some bulls. You have bulls that are somewhat sloppy. When you have a sloppy bull, you know, they have their cows gathered, and you know, they might let the cows wander off a little ways. They might let satellite bulls near them. You know, they're not overly you know, judgmental of all this stuff. They're fearful. As for this bull, wants everything in a tight bunch. He wants everything connected. So in the given morning, he might do 100 laps around these cows, and he does a fairly wide lap. At some points in time, the other day when we're watching this bull, he was literally looping his cows 100 yards around him, keeping them loose. So this type bull that you can literally walk up to, get within 100 yards, wait a couple minutes, and eventually he's going to come past you. You can cow call, stop him, and a lot of times get that shot on this type bull. We had this bull last night at just a little less than 100 yards without calling. Literally walked up to this bull as he was kind of moving his cows around. It was last light again. Obviously, it's really warm out. We don't have a lot of time to work these animals. He was bugling at these animals in the trees, in his bed zone. We hate to go in the bed zones. I should say we never go into the bed zone. So we always leave the bedding areas as a sanctuary, as a safe zone. So this bull was dealing with all his cows in the bedding zone. So we let him come out. He finally came out at last light, was working his cows. Again, we had him a little less than 100 yards. Everything was looking great. And we had a couple of cows kind of go uphill and away and kind of trotted off, to be honest with you. A calf and the cow kind of went off fairly fast, and it just sucked him right away from us. So they pulled him away, and then by that point in time, we kind of got weird with our wind from the direction that they were going, and were forced to kind of back off. And that was literally last night. So the first really push we made to try to get in there and actually harvest that bull was last night. Got 100 yards, a little closer than that. Literally, if we could have had another maybe minute on this bull without the cows pulling him away, I think it probably would have been a slam dunk. But unfortunately, the cows pulled him away, and that's where he sat. Did not have a chance to hunt him this morning. So he's out there chasing his cows hard. So hopefully we'll get in the woods, get on sheep hunting the next 2 days. So we'll see where we're at with that bull. But again, comment. Make sure you do that. Devin, can we throw that picture back up there? Comment on this bull right here, guys. What does that bull score? Is he mature? How mature? What's he look like, guys? Again, comment on that. I want to hear your opinion. I have not studied that bull that much. Again, he's a hard one for me. He looks heavy, but he's not overly heavy. Again, he's not Ricky. So the bull's, he kind of gets that spindly look on his overall antlers, but you compare it to his leg, compare it to his eyes, nose. He's not terrible by any means, but his length is absolutely incredible. So comment. Love to hear what you think about that bull. So guys, let us know. We're going to kind of move on to the topics. But again, that's where we're at right now as far as my personal hunts. I know that was long-winded, but that's where I've been overall in this week of animals. And again, we study them. We watch them to keep up with what's going on with these individual animals. Next thing we're going to talk about with this type of hunt, because again, everything about this show is educational. It's all about the experience of what we're having. And I'm sure everybody is along with me on a lot of these experiences. We were chasing a bull named Ricky. We had a pattern built for months, and it got ruined with another person coming into the area. Not intentional, by no means. We're all hunters. We're all outdoorsmen. Whether it's a hiker, somebody camping. My favorite of all this time of year is people looking at the leaves. Everybody comes from all the major cities all across the West. If you have aspen trees in the area which you're hunting, I'm sure you deal with this. I'm sure you have people from every major city around you coming in to look at the fall colors, the color, the leaf, we call them leaf looking. It's rough on the hunting season, to be totally honest with you. It's a lot of new people in the woods. It's a lot of just overall noise and volume of people in the woods, and it can change up patterns. So again, whether it's overall hunting pressure, whether it's campers, whether it's hikers, whether it's people looking at the changing leaves, a lot of times this time of year, all of a sudden the patterns that we built can change due to an influence of other people and other things in the woods. A lot of times through scouting, the hunter that is very educated and very prepared is the only person in the woods. So we get very used to not dealing with any outside source when building our patterns, and all of a sudden right now hunting season hits, and it can kind of push some things around. It can kind of really change things up. So what we want to talk about now is, again, I had a situation where a bull kind of broke out on me. We have a lot of situations where a lot of hunters have had changing patterns and they're back to square one. You're always going to still have the education of that animal. So when you find that animal again, even though the patterns might change because of pressure, more than likely that the habits, how that animal acts around cows, how he acts individually, how that bull lives as a daily person or a daily animal is not going to change. So you still have all the information about that animal. You just have to plug it in oftentimes into a slightly different situation. So definitely keep that in mind. But the thing we're going to talk about, whether you are having a changing pattern, or more importantly, let's say you're a person that didn't have time to scout. Obviously, if you watched this show for a while, we've been preaching forever about scouting. Scouting is the way to be successful. We always say spend at least 60% of your available opportunity scouting and 40% actually hunting. So again, we're all about scouting. But again, things happen. There's a lot of new people on here that didn't hear about scouting. There's a lot of people that are like, man, I just didn't have time. I'm out in the woods for the first time. I have a lot of friends and people out there that are just really, they're just hitting the woods for the first time, and they haven't stepped into the woods since last hunting season. No pre-education. So we want to talk about the 3-hunt education. Again, whether you want to call it a 3-day scout or a 3-day hunt, or a 3-hunt situation, but the main story here is if I am brand new to an area, I haven't scouted, or my patterns have changed, whatever the case may be, if tomorrow is my first opportunity in the woods or in a new area or in a new pattern, I spend the evening prepping for the next day. So many people grab their bows and charge off into the woods blind. That is something that I highly discourage. I don't want to see people out there doing these blind nature hikes. It's rough on the animals, it's rough on the situation, because you don't know where the animals are at. You might not necessarily know your wind, and I know a lot of people play the wind well, but if you don't really know where the animals are at, it's almost impossible to really know what your wind is doing, let alone the fact that a lot of us hunt into the woods until the thermals start switching, and the second the thermals switch, we start backing out, but a lot of times you have to be back to almost your vehicle or back out of the woods by the time those thermals switch. So a lot of times you have to understand all that to really not have damage in the woods. So the main topic here is the ultimate situation. So if you have things right, let's say we're going in to hunt the right situation, I would spend in a 3-hunt situation. If I'm hunting tomorrow for the first day, I would make my first opportunity tomorrow evening. So I would go into the woods, say 3 o'clock, and I would get as high as I can without jeopardizing the hunt or the other animal. So I would hike to the top of a mountain. I would park on a road up in an elevation, up in a valley, up on top of a mountain. Either way, you personally want to get as high up as you possibly can and sit behind good glass, sit behind a spotting scope, sit behind good binoculars, and you want to glass from afar. You want to find animals, number one. So find bulls, find cows, find bucks, find bears, whatever animal you are hunting. Find these animals from a distance with again, good glass. Once you find these animals, you're building that quick pattern. Hey, how does that animal interact with cows? How often does he bugle? What does his bugle sound like? Does he have satellite bulls? Are the satellite bulls near him? Just literally a quick reference. It might be 10 minutes before dark that you see this animal, but learn what that animal's doing, and more importantly, try to figure out where he's going. So if all of a sudden you see this herd, they're in a valley, and you say, hey, it looks like, generally speaking, they're all going down the valley. You're going to try to look through a spotting scope and see which way grass is moving. Try to figure out your thermals. Try to figure out your wind. And this is literally an evening hunt. I usually very rarely even have a weapon with me on my evening. I'll have it with me just in case, but again, I'm more scouting than anything. The next day, I'm actually going to pursue this animal. So again, if I'm scouting tomorrow, I scout tomorrow night, and then Wednesday morning is my hunt time. So I will go into the woods with that same information, say, hey, last night they were in this valley and they were heading down. So I'm going to anticipate they're down at the bottom, eating, drinking, whatever the case may be. I'm going to hopefully understand that my thermals are coming down first thing in the morning. So I'm going to go somewhat down in that valley and get underneath those animals. And as those animals come back up the hill, generally speaking, to bed, I'm going to be right with them, right on their tail. Now, to be totally honest with you, I would say that my energy level to harvest that bull is probably at like 80% on a morning hunt. I love to get in there. I love to have the fact that if that bull's ready, if he presents the opportunity, I sure am going to take that opportunity and hopefully put that animal on the ground. But generally speaking, if a bull ruts extremely hard the night before, that morning hunt, that bull oftentimes is trying to do nothing more than push those animals to bed. We talked about it in our rut situations, but we'll talk about it again. Again, the average morning, that bull is just pushing cows, trying to get them up to their bedding zone to put them to bed. So oftentimes in the morning, it's harder to work an animal strictly for the fact that he's just working so hard to get those animals to bed. He's not as call responsive. Generally speaking, you know, for every 5 steps I take, they take 10. It's hard to catch up with them in a lot of situations in the morning. I still definitely actively try, and I've shot a lot of animals in the morning. But I actually am hunting that morning. So again, this is my second hunt. But generally speaking, if I don't harvest that bull, my main intent is to put that animal to bed. So I want to watch that animal go into the trees. I want to know that they quit bugling, they quit cow calling, and I know exactly where they're bedding down. Once I know that, I can back out of the woods, I can watch my thermals, and I can really start to understand where the animal's at, where they're going to be, and I can understand how my wind is going to be to understand how to hunt them that afternoon. Now, again, the evening hunt for me is probably my favorite time for a couple of reasons. One, I know exactly where they're at. I mean, usually within a couple hundred yards, I know exactly where they're at. I oftentimes can understand my thermals and know exactly what my wind's going to do. The other big reason for that prime afternoon hunt is I know that after this bull rests for 5, 6, 8 hours, depending how long they're going to bed for, I know that that bull is anticipating rutting, especially at night, but it's going to start that afternoon. I know he's going to rut hard right when he gets up out of bed. So I know he's going to be more call responsive. I know he's probably going to bugle more often. I really know that that bull is showing more signs of rut. And obviously, like we all know, the more they rut, the more bad decisions they make. They start thinking with other things in their head. And the second we can start doing that, it gives us, the hunter, opportunity to get in there and actually try to pursue that animal to get a little closer and make those opportunities. So that's my main situation. So think about that. If you're brand new to an area, you've been unsuccessful, you don't have a pattern, whatever the case may be, next time you go out in the woods, dedicate 3 hunts in a row to an area or an animal. The first evening you spend glassing from afar, finding the animal, finding quick patterns. Go in the next morning, putting a lot of pressure on that animal, but not over pressuring them to where you ruin the animal or affect their daily routine. You're not running at them with calls, you're not pushing them, you're just with them. If they present an opportunity to make that shot, you do so. But if they don't, you put them to bed, and it's really that third hunt, that third time in the woods, where you're putting most of your pressure, you're putting most of your emphasis, because you've had 2 days of knowledge. First day, you're learning quick patterns. Next morning, you're putting them to bed. That afternoon, you know exactly where they're at. More than likely, you know right where they're going to be. You know your thermals, and you just put yourself in that right situation, and you become successful. So again, think about that. If you've had patterns change due to hikers, leaf lookers, campers, hikers, if you've never had a pattern because you didn't scout or whatever the case may be, if you've been unsuccessful, think about the 3 hunt opportunity. Instead of grabbing your weapon and start hiking through the woods. I see it every single day. I'm in the woods most days, and literally every day we watch this situation where people are just walking. And it happens. We've all been there. We've all done it. A lot of us have a hard time with glass from afar because we don't feel like we're engaging. We don't feel like we're hunting. But I promise you, drop the feeling. You're going to have a better hunt if you put a little education behind it. So again, spend that first afternoon scouting, next morning watching, glassing, understanding the patterns. Next morning, putting some pressure on them, really fine-tuning it and putting them to bed. That third hunt, I promise you, you're going to have a lot greater opportunity. Whether it happens for you or not, I promise you, your odds will dramatically increase from that previous knowledge there. So make sure you keep that in mind. Again, I think you're really going to be happy with that. We got a couple more things to talk about. We had a quick question here talking about the heavy smoke affecting the animals. Depending on where you are in the Rocky Mountain region, you are probably seeing all this smoke from the Montana fires. As far as the animals go, I don't think the animals are going to really have that effect. If you've seen a lot of the studies and a lot of footage of animals near fires, generally speaking, these animals wait until the fire is almost on them before they start to migrate out of the area. Again, it's not a situation where they bail quickly. So I don't think any daily habits or migrations or anything like that is going to affect the actual animals. The big thing that I can think we're really going to have an effect with is us, the hunters, glassing. Again, talking about the last couple days, yesterday and the day before, we do a lot of long-range glassing. Again, I'll sit behind this. Again, we're talking Vortex. I mean, I have some of the clearest glass ever made. I mean, you can see a fly buzzing a mile away with this stuff. It's incredible. But with heavy smoke, it totally breaks it down and you can't see through it. So to where I'm used to sitting on a ridge top and glassing 2-3 miles away, with this heavy smoke, I can see clearly, you know, to 700 yards, 800 yards, and that's it. So the biggest thing that we're going to have with the effect of the smoke is us, the hunters, not being able to glass long range, not being able to see animals, and really not be able to have that building of a pattern. So that's probably the biggest thing that we really see the struggle with the smoke, is us, the hunter, not being able to glass. So while we answer questions, we'll take a couple more questions here before we wrap up with our our last topic. But again, the smoke, I don't think it's going to affect the animals, but it's definitely going to affect us, the hunters, trying to look through glass and trying to really build these patterns.
Okay, do the bulls spend more or less time up and active during the the daylight hours later in the rifle seasons?
So we're talking about the overall animal activity, daytime activity. Do bulls in general spend more time up and out of their beds during the rifle season? That's 100% correct. Definitely. Right now, a bull in a pre-rut situation, so a bull that is not rutting at all or barely showing the signs of rutting, definitely spends a lot of time in its bed. It's out all evening, it's out all night, and just a little bit in the morning. It really spends almost all of the daytime activity in its bed in dark timber. Again, spending almost all of its time on its feet active in a low light period. So it's definitely rough. As the rut activity starts coming into play, you start to see this overall activity increase. So the rut definitely helps these animals stay on their feet a little bit longer. The bulls get a little more active. They get antsy. They chase them around. The calves get antsy. So it definitely helps out having rut activity. But as you get colder in temperature, it helps 100%. So all of a sudden you get into that those October rifle seasons. You get into the November rifle seasons, and it really helps. And the big thing I would say, more so than daytime activity, it's their bedding zones change. This is probably the most crucial thing. So people ask me all the time about what rifle season's best. And to be totally honest with you, I am a huge fan of the first rifle season and the last rifle season. So depending on what state you're in, the very first rifle season is probably going to catch what we consider the second rut. So it's really a continuation of the rut, but all the cows that don't take, all the cows that are not bred during that September rut or that early October rut, basically will still be into heat or go into a second heat sometime in that middle of October, basically second week of October, or second week of October. And when they go back into that second heat, these bulls kind of go back into that same rut stage. They're fighting, they're bugling, they're talking. So that first rifle hunt, at least for the first couple days of it until all the guns start going off, these animals are rutting. So it's very easy to locate animals during that first rifle season. We're taking advantage of calling, but using a gun. So we love that time period. I also love the later rifle seasons. You talk to the general public, and everybody likes basically the second rifle zone, because generally speaking, statewide, anywhere you go, that second rifle hunt is oftentimes the longest season, and people take advantage of more days thinking it ups their opportunity. But it can almost hurt you, because once the guns start going off, the bulls separate from the cows, and once the bulls separate from the cows, obviously they're harder to find, and once enough guns go off, they feel pressure and they go back to hanging out in the timber like they would during archery season. Now you go into the later rifle season, you start getting into November, all of a sudden the dark timber becomes too cold. They don't like spending their days in that dark timber because it just gets too cold on their body. So most of these animals move over to aspen hillsides, Quakies. So they move into these aspen hillsides, and they find real thick aspen patches. Usually it's on a steeper hillside, and they bed in these aspen patches. The idea is they have enough trees to offer cover. They feel safe, but yet the sun penetrates through these trees and allows them to warm up. So they get great sunlight on their body to keep them warm, basically that perfect kind of cozy nap, but yet they have trees that they feel safe. Luckily for us, the hunters, we can usually go across valley on the opposite hillside, and we can usually see these animals clear as day, and 90% of the time we can shoot across the valley and actually shoot these animals out of their bed. So for me personally, talking about the rifle opportunities, yes, they do spend more time on their feet during the later hunts, but more importantly, they bed out in the open, giving us far more opportunity to actually hunt these animals and target these animals. So huge things there. So yes, for both reasons, you just get more time in that later hunt.
I think you covered them both there. We got some questions about the moon phase affecting animals, but I think we're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about that next. So guys, the thing we're talking about now is the rut activity. Talking about calling sets and things like that. You as the hunter, everybody talks about calling. Calling is the hottest topic in the elk hunting world, no matter where you're at. Everybody wants to do it. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's like hunting a turkey on steroids, having a big bull elk come into a rut or come into a call. Right now, Colorado, a little bit of Utah, a little bit of Wyoming, the areas that we've been studying and checking. I would say, generally speaking, the rut activity right now is probably about 50-50 depending on where you are at. If you are in high country, we have cooler temps, you're seeing some rut activity. If you're in an area where you have a lot of cows and you have younger bulls trying to gather those cows and overall younger bulls trying to breed those cows, it's making the larger bulls kind of mad, they're firing up, and you're getting a lot of interaction. Basically, it's a pre-rut activity, but we're going to call it the rut because everything's going on. The bulls are bugling, they're gathering cows. So especially Colorado and again Utah, Wyoming, I would say our animals right now today, it's early September, are in about a 50-50. 50% are rutting, 50% are not. And when I say 50% are, they're trying to breed. Whether it's actually happening or not, I wouldn't say so. But they're calling, they're active, they're chasing cows, they're showing all the signs of that great rut activity. The one big thing we'll talk about is the big moon coming tomorrow night. Really, it's tonight, but tomorrow night is the 100% moon. This is the most powerful moon for me personally of the entire year, because this moon is what really signifies the rut to me. This is the moon that seals the deal. Now, it's a love-hate relationship. I was actually talking with an elk hunting guide yesterday. We're taking, swapping notes about moon phase. He hates it. He hates the moon for the fact that you get so much night activity that your daytime activity drops to nothing. So over this next, couple days, a lot of times these animals will literally be out during daylight for 30 minutes in the morning and 15, 20 minutes at night. So it can really hurt the daytime activity. Unfortunately, us, the hunter, you got to get in there, make the most of that opportunity, and again, be a smart hunter and back out. No nature hikes. Again, talking to everybody out there that loves just to hike around the woods. I know we want to make the most of our time. We take off work, but again, you got to be a smart hunter. So get in there when the animals are active. The second they go in their beds, back out. Don't hurt any of your situations. But that's the cause of the moon phase. So the downfall of the big moon coming is the fact that there's so much night activity, it dwindles the daytime activity. The positive thing about the big moon is it kicks off the rut. That big bright moon is just the clear-cut indicator the rut is happening. It's going to make these animals start breeding again. All your vocal activity, your bugling, your cow calling, it might all be in the evening, evening if not nighttime. A lot of times people during the day will be like, man, I'm not hearing anything because it's all happening at night. But regardless, it's happening. So the thing I love about this is the second you get that big moon early in the fall like this, it's going to make that rut happen. So the second that moon starts dwindling down, 5 days, 6 days, the second we start losing that light or it goes back to basically a normal phase, you know your animals are going to be in a rut situation, in a rut phase. So I love the big moon because it's going to create that rut activity. This is also a lot of time where I start my mornings extremely early. If I know that I'm going to have to be in a certain area in the woods by 6 a.m., let's say I have to leave my truck at 4 a.m. for a 2-hour hike. A lot of times I'll leave at 1 a.m., giving myself time for a 4-hour hike, and I'll just spend a lot of time outside. Whether I turn off my truck and I'm sitting on a county road, I'm sitting on my truck, or I'm hiking up and I'm on top of a ridge 10 miles from my truck. This is the time of year where you get so much nighttime bugling, nighttime activity, that I'll get out there a couple hours earlier on my hunt just to hear the animals talking, to where, one, I can start to learn the sounds. I learn how they're reacting, how fast they're firing off. But more importantly, I know exactly how many bulls are in the area. All of a sudden, you might do daytime scouting. You might say, hey, I have 5 bulls in this valley. You go out at 3 a.m. the next couple nights, and all of a sudden you're like, I got 15 bulls bugling. Where are they all at? But it allows you to have that education, have that knowledge, know what's in the area, and better hunt that type area. So again, the big moon, for me personally, it's a plus. I love it. I know it's going to kick off the rut, and I'm really anticipating this happening to be more, suitable for me, the hunter, in about 5 days from now. But tomorrow night is the night where the breeding starts. So again, I'm a big fan of it. As far as how I hunt around it, I just plan on making the absolute most of the key times. Maybe it's a half hour in the morning, maybe it's 2 hours in the morning, depending on where you're at. Afternoons, if they're rutting hard enough, there's a lot of times where, I had a good buddy harvest a bull this week at 4 p.m. This big bull was screaming, rutting hard. Again, they got in the woods really early just to hoping to kind of get their wind right and just hang out. They were planning on taking a nap. They got to the valley which the bull was in. They were just sat down thinking they had to wait for 2 hours, and the bull started screaming. They went down there, came directly into a call, and they literally harvested this bull at 4 p.m. in 80-degree weather. So there's a lot of different opportunities, but big thing for the big moon. It's going to create a rut situation, so we got to like it. It's just going to shorten your overall daytime activity. Hunt smart. Don't do the random hikes. Get in there, hunt the animals when they're on their feet. The second they go to their bed, back out. You don't have to spend a lot of that time doing those, again, long hikes if you don't have a mission. Think about the 3-hunt situation that we just talked about. Last thing we're talking about before we take a look at the last couple questions is the actual setup for calling. We had a lot of people talk about this. I personally do not like calling to a bull or talking to a bull unless I've done like that 3-hunt situation or unless I have done some scouting. I hate to go into the situation, hear a bull bugle, and start bugling back. I love to know what they are. So like we watched that Big Bull Junior that you saw a picture of earlier. Big Bull Junior, he runs a very tight herd. We know how that junior bull talks. You see him on the screen right there. I know the sound of his bugle, and I know that he keeps his satellite bulls about 100 to 150 yards away from him. So in this type situation, when I go in there to hunt Junior, I know that he's with the harem. I know his bugle. But as I approach his herd, I have to understand that I have satellite bulls literally 100 to 150 yards away from that herd. So when hunting him, if I didn't know that piece of tool, I'd hear him bugle, and if I was the average hunter, I would get within 300 yards, and I'd do my first cow call, my first bugle to let him know I'm in the area. And a lot of times that satellite bull is going to come right in, and a lot of times that can startle people. They can say, okay, I wasn't ready for that. Once that bull came in, let's say he came into 5 feet and saw me, when he turns to run, is he going to go back to the herd and spook the herd off? So for me personally, I have to know where my satellites are, how that bull handles the satellites, and hopefully sneak through the satellites before I really start calling to that bull to where I don't pull the satellite in first and have the opportunity to ruin my hunt. So you really have to know the situation. If you know that a bull is running cows but he's not overly dominant, that's a bull that you're going to cow call to or have somewhat of a lighter bugle tone. So more than anything, before I go into a blind situation like we talk about, try to do that 3-hunt situation. Try to understand just a quick idea of how that bull acts. Is he overly dominant? Is he shy? Does he have satellites right with him? If he has satellites right with him, again, if those satellites are going to leave, you can call to that bull from a distance and have a good opportunity. The other thing that we're going to talk about is the distance. This is the last thing we're talking about. When calling to a bull, I like to start the conversation from a ways back. Ways back is anything from 250 to 300 yards and further. I don't like to break that 250-yard barrier without introducing myself. I'm a polite hunter. So I want to say, hey, bull, here I am. I'm in the area. Don't be startled. And then I start working closer, even if it's just one cow call, one bugle, to let them know that something's in the area. So as I step on a twig, because I'm clumsy, as I make noise, that bull's like, it's just another elk coming in. If you are silent trying to sneak in, sometimes it can be tough. Now, if you're not going to call at all and you're just going to sneak in and shoot them, it's great. Sneak right in there, don't worry about it. But most people want to call these animals. So when you plan on calling, start off further back. One of the biggest mistakes I see hunters make is sneak within 200 yards, 150 yards, and they start cow calling, and that bull literally throws up a red flag. I've never heard an animal before. I have no idea there was an animal close. What is that? Why is it so close and I didn't hear it coming? And you can throw up that red flag. A lot of times that bull's going to tighten up that harem and slowly push it away until it figures out what's going on. So starting off 250, 300 yards back, make one call, 1 or 2 calls. Just basically introduce yourself. At that point on, the second you make one call, you have to anticipate possibly having a blind situation of having a satellite bull, having the herd bull, having cows or calves coming at you. So I usually work towards an animal fairly quick. If I'm going to call, I'll do it at 300 yards. From that point on, I take 3-4 steps and I look. Make sure that there's no animals coming to me. Take 3-4 steps. Make sure there's no animals coming to me, and then I work closer to the herd. Once I get 150 yards away, I've already introduced myself a ways back. I can start calling more frequently and hopefully pull that bull off, or hopefully allow myself to walk up because the other animals think I'm another approaching elk. So again, simple things like that. The moral of the story with calling is, number one, have a pattern. Know what bull you're talking to and know the general behavior and habits of that bull. That's the number one thing that's going to help you be successful. If you know he's shy, go in shy. If you know that he's a big aggressive bull, you know you can have a little more power with him. But again, understand what the animal is, understand the satellites and the situations of that bull. Those are the 2 things that are really going to help you out. Number 2, or whatever number we're on, make sure that you don't get too close without introducing yourself. Again, you don't have to start your full calling set at a distance, but make sure you introduce yourself as you start coming in, just so you don't startle your animal. Again, one of the biggest mistakes hunters make is getting too close before calling and ruining their set and ruin that entire opportunity there. So again, distance is a major play. Start off a ways back, introduce yourself as a polite person, and work your way in, and you're going to be far more successful at the end of the hunt. So definitely keep that in mind. We got another question there, Devin?
We do. So we've got a first-time elk hunter from back east. He's referring more to Wyoming, but
Yep.
He's got some points. Would you suggest that he burn them during the rut, during the bow season, or go for a rifle, maybe an easier hunt?
Yeah, so a gentleman right now, if you didn't hear the question, is a person living on the East Coast coming out for his first elk hunt, talking about Wyoming, has some preference points, is really looking at the opportunity. Do I want to hunt a rut situation, or do I want to have a rifle tag? I really break it down on the situations. Every hunt has its own style. So generally speaking, obviously the rut brings on an experience. And some of us are all about the kill, and somebody of us are about the experience. There's nothing better than a rut experience. Having that opportunity to call the animals, have an idea to locate those animals is so much easier during the rut because you know right where they're at. It makes it a great opportunity to sneak up and have that opportunity. The only downfall of hunting the rut is, number one, if you haven't spent a lot of time around elk, obviously calling them, you got a little bit of a learning curve, learning the communication, what you can get away with, what you can't. And the only really negative to bow hunting elk in general, most bow hunters are going to have an opportunity at a bull coming in. In a perfect world, that bull has to be totally broadside or quartering away just slightly to make that shot. That's probably the hardest thing that happens. I had a bull a couple years ago. I had a giant bull, big 380 monster bull. And overall, through the course of an archery season, I drew my bow back on this bull 13 times over the course of like a 30-day season, and I never got a shot off, strictly for the fact that he would come in and he'd be quartering to me. He would come in and there'd be a stick in the way. He'd come in and a cow would be behind him. He'd come in and a calf would be with him. He would come in and there'd be a twig in my way. He'd come in and he'd be in the sun. Those are the type of things. We're bow hunters. I know everybody's smiling. It happens. And that's really the only negative to the bow hunting these big bulls. But it's an experience you'll never forget. The opportunity of a rifle, you're not going to know where they're at because they're not talking in a lot of the seasons. If it's an early season, you might get some of that rut activity. But the really advantage of rifle season, you can shoot further, and it doesn't matter which way they're facing. You can pound them with that bullet. So that's really the big benefits of the rifle tag. Now, I will tell you that some of the most unbelievable opportunities for a DNR standpoint exist in Wyoming, a little bit in Idaho and Montana. A lot of these states, depending what unit you're hunting, you can have an archery tag. If you are unsuccessful with that archery tag, a lot of those tags roll over to be a rifle tag. So if you're watching this and you just answer your question, check into that. See if that opportunity in Wyoming, if that is an archery tag that allows it to roll over, I would say it's a no-brainer. I would 100% come out during archery, hunt hard, do everything you can, but if you're unsuccessful, a lot of times in certain units, you're going to be able to roll that into a rifle tag and come right back on that same tag. So check that out. If that's the opportunity, it's a no-brainer. But generally speaking, at least some point in time, you got to have that archery tag to experience that rut. You're going to learn a lot about elk. You're going to learn the habits, and then from that point on, you can go back and forth. And to be totally honest with you, I am a 90% bow hunter. I do everything with a bow, but I still hunt a lot of rifle tags. I look at a particular bull, I look at the opportunities in which he lives, and I then determine how I'm going to hunt that bull. There's a lot of times where I think, whether it's a big bull or the rut relationship or the cow relationship, I'm better off taking a later season. Whether I use a gun or a bow in that rifle season, a lot of times if it's a later hunt, it's more opportunity, I'll do that. So there's a lot of things that weigh in, but hopefully that helped you out there. I get one more question, I guess, guys, and we're going to kind of cut it off for the night.
All right, so we've talked about this before, but doing a solo archery hunt and not having a caller behind us, we've talked about not doing this, but can we elaborate?
Absolutely. So a person's asking about solo archery. Is it the situation of having a caller with you? There's no doubt there's benefits to having a caller behind you. You watch TV, you watch all the big stats. Everybody's got that caller 50 yards behind you. I guided elk hunts for 10 years. I cannot tell you how many times that's backfired. It's also worked a lot to where the caller's behind me, that bull comes in, he has no idea there's anything there, and you get that close encounter at 10 feet as the bull's getting ready to pass you, go to the caller behind you. I've also seen about 1,000,000 times where I'm sitting, 50 yards behind my client or my buddy, and I'm calling, and that bull goes all the way around the hunter and comes right to me, and I'm sitting here, 10 feet from a bull, and my buddy can't shoot because I'm in the line of sight, and it messes you up. I can tell you right now, most of the hunting that I've done over the past years have been by myself. I might have maybe a camera guy with me, but it's almost always solo. I always do my own calling. It's not a problem. I would say no issues. The biggest thing that you have to overcome is number one, being comfortable with everything. So many solo hunters, and the big mistake they make is they're calling. The bull's coming. He's right on that string, and you're literally pulling him in. And a lot of times when that bull hits 80 yards, 60 yards, everybody stops calling. They hook their release on. They move the bugle tube, and they get 100% into shooting mode. They quit calling. All of a sudden, that bull freezes up because he's like, "Where's the cows? I can't see them." And they lose interest because you stopped. So me personally, the way I shoot, I have my bugle tube tucked really tight, right under my arm, right over my chest, right here at my mouth. I can still shoot my bow, draw my bow with my bugle tube literally right here at my mouth. Using a diaphragm call to where you can still call. So I literally have my release on my string in that full mode. I follow my bulls in. We talked about that. So many guys will pick an opening and they'll hold their bow there, and all of a sudden the elk stops shy of that and they have to move to get onto them, and that bull will catch them. I have literally arrow nocked, ready to go, and I follow my bulls real slow. So that way, no matter where they stop, I literally just have to push that bow out and I can fire. But all my calls are right there to where I never have to stop. I can't tell you how many times I've literally been bugling. I'm holding it with my elbow. I'm bugling and I'm drawing almost as I'm finishing a bugle to where that bull continues to walk at me. So the number one thing that kills you in that situation is when you stop calling, and that happens all the time. Guys have a bull coming in, they get into that shooting mode, they quit calling, and the bull freezes. So doing it yourself is no problem. I think it's a great opportunity. Less noise, you're sneaky, you're faster, and the fast really helps out. So a lot of times you're going to be more successful by yourself. Just make sure you have a plan to continue calling. Make sure that bull has somewhere to keep looking to where he is zigzagging around, presenting shot opportunities, and can get in close, and you can make the most of it. When you stop calling, when they're coming in hard, is generally speaking when they stop, and that's usually the game changer and kind of the downfall of being solo. So make sure you keep calling, keep them on that string. I don't think you have a problem. Just make sure you can shoot in all those situations, and you should have a good hunt. And if, again, guys, that was the main topic there, but again, I think that will work out for you. Guys, we're running out of time. We still have some things to talk about, but we're going to cut it off for the evening. Again, I cannot thank Bowtech enough for the opportunity for letting us go live and all the other feeds. Again, huge thanks to Diamond Archery, Black Gold Sights, Ripcord, Tight Spot Quarters, Bass Pro Shops of Denver, Excalibur Crossbows. Guys, those Excalibur crossbows are awesome. I actually sighted one in today. I am blown away every time I shoot those crossbows. So huge thanks to them. Huge thanks to all the fans at Tightline Outdoors, as well as my personal page, Nate Zielinski. Guys, again, huge thanks for watching. Also, a huge thanks to Randy Newberg for sharing that out and sending that text to all the viewers of his. Make sure you watch Randy's show every Wednesday evening, same time, 7 p.m. Pacific. Guys, I'm going to be sheep hunting tomorrow. I'm going to be in the woods elk hunting this week. I'm going to be with my wife elk hunting. I have got a lot of hunts lined up. We're going to talk about all those hunts every Monday evening at 7 p.m. Pacific. Also, make sure you like the Nate Zielinski Facebook page. We'll do a lot of updates from that page as well. Guys, I really enjoy spending the evening with you. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your comments. Next week, bring all your friends. We'll be here the same time, same place. Again, 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. for everybody here in the Rockies region. But again, it's every Monday night. Make sure you also text the word WATCH to 313131. Every time Bowtech has live hunts, live opportunities, and great content, they will send you a text alert when all that stuff's available. So again, text the word WATCH to 313131. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. You'll really enjoy it. Guys, again, thank you so much. I'm Nate Zielinski. I will see you next week. Hopefully we have a lot of harvest this coming week to share with you next week. Again, Nate Zielinski, thank you so much. Enjoy.